Rick Dollar with NetRadioDogs.com, and we are live in Nashville, Tennessee with the one, the only Carl Jackson. Carl?
He's here. Oh.
Yeah, there he is, and we're so glad to be with you today.
Good to see you, Rick. Thank
and you've had an incredible career. I've done some research on you. I don't know your credit card numbers or anything, as far as you know. But
was that you?
Yeah. Okay. Okay. But you are legendary in this business, and you started this business in a very young age. Can you fill us in on who you started with and everything?
Well, my first influences were definitely my dad,
right,
and my two uncles, especially my dad. He loves bluegrass music and old time country music, and he and my two uncles, they had a little local bluegrass band where I'm from in Louisville, Mississippi, called the Country Partners.
Aha.
Had a radio show, a tape a radio show to play every Saturday or Sunday morning.
Exactly.
And I couldn't help but love it.
Exactly.
I had the bug. I mean, a lot of kids wanted to be firemen and policemen and all that kind of thing, and I wanted to do two things. I wanted to play baseball, or I wanted to play music. Play banjo specifically.
Yeah.
I really got the bug on banjo playing because my uncle Burgess, we call him Uncle Sock. He got a banjo and was learning to play a little bit. Took a few lessons from a great banjo player from East Tennessee named Bud Rose.
Right. And
Bud had come down into the area and was playing with Carl Sauceman and the Green Valley Boys over in Aliceville, Alabama, Carrollton, Aliceville area, and so I decided I wanted to take some lessons too. And anyway, I'm telling you a long story to kind of.
I got all day
build
for you, sir.
Don't you worry. Build the whole deal, okay.
Don't you worry one bit.
So anyway, I went over there a few times and took 2 or 3 lessons from Bud, and he taught me the basic roll. I remember I learned the Saints Go Marching In and In the Mood, just a couple of things to learn, the 3-finger roll on 5-string banjo, and then he moved back to East Tennessee.
Oh no!
And which was a sad day.
Oh no!
But he continued to send me a few tapes through the mail.
Man, that's great.
And I took those tapes along with sitting in front of a record player and listening to Alan Shelton and Earl Scruggs and Don Reno and those guys, slowing the records down, learning what they did just by ear. Yeah, just by ear, and then adding my own stuff to it. And the next thing I know, Jim and Jesse and the Virginia Boys are coming to play a little schoolhouse. I believe it was in Reform, Mississippi. I think the first show that I saw them. My dad took me. I didn't really want to go that night. I had something else going on, and I can't remember. I was probably 12 or so.
Girl.
And I don't think so at the time. I think it was probably Ole Miss football, which I'm still a huge fan of the Rebels. Yeah, absolutely. And but anyway, I wound up going, and I just fell in love with it even more.
Wow.
And he took me backstage, and Jim and Jesse were kind enough to listen to me, and I can't remember if they brought me out and I played something that night or not. I don't think I did. But anyway, after the show, we were talking, and my dad told him, he just said, if you guys ever get in a pinch or you need a banjo player, I hope you'd keep us in mind. And well, Jim McReynolds called.
Wow.
When I was 14, and I say I was there, I don't know exactly what age it was. I can't remember if it was 11, 12, 13, somewhere in there when I first played for them.
Right.
But they called, and I went to work with them at 14.
Wow.
And that started the whole professional end of things.
Exactly.
I started playing the banjo and getting those first lessons and stuff at around 8, something like that. And I was already playing, I guess, pretty doggone good.
Now, how did that
at that
go?
time?
What was Jim and Jesse?
Oh, it was wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. I mean, here I am. I mean, I remember the first trip was about 2 weeks, and man, I was homesick. Now I'll tell you, that's the first time I'd ever been away from home.
How old were you at that point?
14.
You're still 14. Oh my God.
Yeah, the first trip we stayed out about 2 weeks, and and I had of course I was still in school.
Exactly.
And but my principal, I've always given him a lot of credit. He told me, as long as you make good grades, you don't have to come to school.
Man alive.
And I kept my grades up, made really good grades, and so I would go on the road with them anytime I wanted to, and it was mostly weekend stuff. That first thing was in the summer. Of course, most of the travel was in the summer anyway.
I can only imagine how that would be a 14-year-old child, basically. And you're on the road with playing music every day.
Well, I mean, they were Jim and Jesse. I mean, you couldn't have asked to be with two finer people.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of great things.
Just
about
absolutely great people. They didn't drink, they didn't smoke, they didn't do it. It was just good people, and my mom and dad knew that, and
they watched after you.
Trusted them. They did. They watched after me. When I was up here in Nashville, I stayed at Jim's house or at Jesse's house, one or the other.
Amazing.
And then I'd go back to school, and come up on the weekends sometimes, or play weekend gigs with them during the year until I finished high school, and it was an absolutely wonderful time, learning experience. And when I look back on it, realizing that I was, playing with really the first generation guys. I mean, the icons of bluegrass music.
Icon is a great word.
It was them and the Osborne brothers, and Flatt and Scruggs and the Stanley brothers, and Reno and Smiley. I mean, that group.
That was the bunch.
I mean, all the festivals we were playing, they were still there. In fact, some of the first shows we played, I mean, Flatt and Scruggs were still together. It was really cool.
That's awesome. All right, let's fast forward a little bit.
Yeah.
A few years later, start working with a really great man, Glen Campbell.
Yeah, there was a little, actually not a lot of time in between that. You're right. I did spend about a year with the Sullivan family playing guitar with them, and that's when I had met Marty before that, Marty Stewart, but we traveled together,
Oh, man.
with the Sullivan family, which I don't mean to avoid your question there, but it was a year of incredible laughter and fun.
I can imagine.
I mean, we had so much fun. Emmett Sullivan was one of the funniest human beings that's ever walked the face of the earth.
Always good to be around somebody like that. That's
And
for sure.
Marty and I, we all traveled in a station wagon.
Oh my God.
With an upright bass, not on top, but inside the car with us. Now imagine that.
I don't want to know where they put you.
Well, I mean, I'm on one side and Emmett's on the other, basically, and Marty's basically underneath. He was the little squirt, so that's, But we did a lot of playing music. That little mandolin in the back seat.
That's right.
We traded a few licks, told a lot of jokes, had just an absolutely wonderful time.
That's what it's about.
That led then to the forming of a band called the Country Store with Keith Whitley, Jimmy Goodrow, and Bill Rollins. And we had talked through the years, because Jimmy was with the Country Gentlemen, of course, and Keith was with Ralph Stanley.
Right.
And I was with Jim and Jesse, and we'd kind of conversed through the years at festivals and stuff. Maybe we ought to start our own group one of these days. Well, we finally decided to do it. So I go up to Columbus, Ohio, and I'm getting to your question. Believe it or not,
Carl, this is great.
I go up to Columbus, Ohio, and to meet with Jimmy and Keith and Bill.
Right.
We all gang up there and start rehearsing a little bit. Actually, go into Rome Studios and turn the tape recorder on and record a few tunes, which I still have today. Which is,
do you really?
Oh, I absolutely treasure them. But while I was there, and I'd only been there about a week, maybe a little less than a week, Keith and I were sitting at the table reading the paper, and we noticed that Glen Campbell was going to be in town at the Ohio State Fair.
Right.
And man, Keith was a huge fan of Glen too, and I mean, he couldn't have a bigger fan than me, I don't guess. I mean, I loved him. In school, literally, and I have those too. I could show you my yearbooks. I mean, because the Good Time Hour was so big at that time, 3-4 different people signed my yearbook. See you on Glen Campbell one day. Because I played banjo. They saw John Hartford and Larry McNeely stand up. Yeah, little did they know. Little did I know. I had no idea to even meet the guy. But anyway, we went to Keith and I decided to go to the show, and we went out to the fairgrounds in Columbus, Ohio, to see Glen perform, and it was amazing. Glen was at the top of his game, which Glen never left the top of his game. He didn't. But he was an amazing singer and guitar player, and we had the best time. It was just a wonderful show. And what I mean, the top of his game, he was just at a peak right then. The show was just about to go off the air, but he had just monster hits. He was literally the biggest thing in America at the time, you know.
Wow.
And so after the show, Keith and I, you know, we do the boy thing, you know. We go out to the Midway, you know. We're riding the rides and doing all this stuff and just having fun, goofing off, not thinking a thing about anything. And on the way back to the car, I glance over to my left, and I can remember it so clearly. And there stands Larry McNeely.
Mm-hmm.
And Larry had formerly played with Roy Acuff, but he had gone to work with Glen and was actually on the TV show with Glen. He took John Hartford's place.
Mm-hmm.
He was the guy that would stand up in the audience and start off Gentle on My Mind after John Hartford left. And so I saw Larry standing there, and I told Keith, I said, let's walk over there and just say hello. You know, I have no idea, you know, that he knows who I am.
May not even talk to him.
You know, may not talk to him or anything, but he was standing there, you know, talking to some folks, and walked over, and I just stuck out my hand, and I said, Larry, I just want you to know how much I really enjoyed the show, man. My name's Carl Jackson, and I love your playing, man. He said, Carl Jackson? He said, man, I love your playing. He said, what are you doing here? And I didn't even know he knew me, you know, but I guess because of, you know, I mean, I played on the Opry with Jim and Jesse several times. Of course, he was with Acuff, and we had never met, you know, but I guess he, you know, he knew another banjo player like I knew a banjo player. So anyway, he said, what are you doing tomorrow? And I said, man, we're up here, we formed a new band, and we're just doing a little rehearsing and hanging out and stuff. And he said, well, why don't you come by tomorrow and let's jam some? And I said, okay, sure, why not?
I can make time for that.
So, yeah, I can make time for that. So the next day, I go by, you know, and Larry, you know, I carry my banjo over there, and Larry gets his out, and we sit there and we play a little bit together, but Larry's he's not playing a whole bunch. He keeps asking me to play stuff. I have no idea what he's doing until after the fact. And then he just looks over at me after, you know, maybe 15, 20 minutes of, can you play this? Do you play this? Do you play this? Or, yeah, I do. And
I got that.
He looks over and he goes, would you like to have this job?
Whoa.
I mean, just like that. And I said, it didn't take me very long. I said, what do you mean? Yeah, but what do you mean? He said, man, I have been looking for somebody that can replace me. And he said, I just don't want to travel anymore. I don't want to travel the road anymore. And he said, you can do it. You are the guy that can do it. Are you interested? And I'm like, man. And then I told him all the yearbook stories and all. You know, I said, yeah, I guess you could say I'm interested. You know.
Yeah.
So he said, give me just a minute. And then he leaves. There were trailers back there. That was the dressing rooms, you know. So he goes over to Glen's trailer. And he comes back about 5 minutes later, less than that really, and he said, come with me, you know. And so, you know, I grab my banjo and I go with him and walk in, and there he sits, you know, there's my hero, you know.
Glen Campbell.
There's Glen. And, you know, he's so cordial, so nice.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember, it was about, you know, it must have been 100 degrees outside. Glen's sitting there, you know, he's sitting there, he just got off stage, I guess, before again, you know, done the afternoon show, and he's all sweaty and got his shirt off, just country boy, you know.
Yeah.
He could care less, you know, and he said, well, so I understand you play banjo, and I said, yeah, I do, you know, and he said, well, he started the whole routine then, you know, he's like, well, can you play this? I'm like, yeah, we'll play a little bit of that for me, you know, and it was, you know, pretty much straight ahead traditional stuff. The first few things, you know, it was, you know, Foggy Mountain Breakdown and Rocky Top and First One Thing and Another, like that, you know. And then he started, you know, going a little deeper, you know. And,
want to see how far he can go.
Yeah, you know, can you play Little Rock Getaway? You know, yeah, you know. And so I played it for him, and then he wanted to know if I played guitar. And my answer was, yeah, I play a little bit, you know. And at the time, I could play every solo he'd ever done, you know, because because
you were listening to him.
Well, I was listening to him sitting in front of that record player.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you know, like the solo for Once in My Life and all that stuff that he did, you know, at the live album in New Jersey. I mean, I could play all that stuff.
Wow.
And so I played him a few things. I forget what I played him. I can't remember, or what he asked me to play on guitar. But then I remember he asked me. He said, "Can you play the Claw?"
Yeah.
Which was a Jerry Reed tune, and I said, "Yeah, I can play the Claw." And he said, "Well, play me that." So I played him the Claw, you know, and he looked over and he said, how much would you like to make?
Now that's a question you want Glen Campbell to ask you.
And at 18 years old,
Yeah, exactly.
The answer of the 18-year-old was $1 million. That was my answer.
Man, you're smart.
Yeah, well, I don't know about that.
Well, but you knew exactly what to do.
He just kind of giggled, and he said, you want this job, you got it, you're hired.
Wow.
He said, you go home and get your stuff together, and my business manager, Stan Snyder, will call you in a few days, and you're hired.
Man.
And so I had to go back that night and tell Keith
Amazing.
and Jimmy and Bill that.
Guess they didn't take
guess
that
what,
too
guys?
well.
They didn't take it too well. Not that night.
Yeah.
But after sleeping on it the next morning,
I can imagine.
They're all like, "Man,
we lost our
we're so
banjo player."
sorry. I mean, we can't. You have to take this. We're sorry for ever. Even we're really proud of you, and you got to take. We totally understand.
Well, they supported you. I mean, that's two
Absolutely.
really good friends right there.
Absolutely. So anyway, I did. I went back to Mississippi. Went home. I got my things together, prepared to take the job with Glen Campbell on their word.
Mm-hmm.
On Glen's word. I did. There was no contract. There was no other phone call until Stan Snyder called. And Stan called and he said, we're going to be in, I believe, Omaha, Nebraska, for another state fair, the Nebraska State Fair. It seems like it was there, and then one other date in America, and then we're going to Australia for 3 weeks. You need to get a passport. You need to do all this stuff. I did. Got the passport and all the works. And I'm off to Omaha, Nebraska, play the state fair with them, and then we're off to Australia. And that started 12 of the absolutely most wonderful years in my life.
Amazing.
Glen Campbell, as far as I'm concerned, is the greatest singer this nation has ever known. As far as I'm concerned, the world.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really hard to describe.
He was so smooth and
could
transition into different things really well, really fast.
Yeah, I mean, you know how you can make. I mean, you can make almost anybody sound good these days if you want to.
Except for me.
I might surprise you, buddy.
Might have a new career.
There's
Tony.
Technology out there that can make people that can't sing all of a sudden sing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I want to tell you what, Glen Campbell was a walking Pro Tools unit.
Yeah.
I mean, I see things today that we did back then. Live TV shows from England and different things like that. We had a weekly show in England for a short time, and Glen stood there, and we all played. Rarely was there a second take at all, and if there was a second take, it wasn't because Glen messed up.
It's because he wanted to do it.
It's because he wanted to do it, or he had something particular he wanted to do. And I'm telling you, you listen to those things, and his vocals are absolute perfection. I mean, the guy had more vocal ability than anybody I've ever seen in my life. It's just, and that's not even talking about his guitar playing.
Exactly.
And his stagemanship, his just professionalism. He was just absolutely amazing.
My dad did that to me when I was younger. He was Ricky Skaggs, Randy Travis, Glen Campbell. He loved all those guys.
You're talking about great ones, yeah.
And that's what I grew up with.
Yeah.
And I mean, I was going to high school, and I could sing every one of those songs.
Oh,
I heard them in the car, at the house, when they're cooking on the back porch.
I mean, driving in today, I'm listening to some of Glen's old stuff.
That's
the legacy albums. I mean, it's just basically got every tune he ever recorded in a box set type of issue, and it's amazing.
It is.
And I'm so blessed to have been able to do that, and then just remain close friends all through the years, and work together a few times on different projects, and I mean, it's just Ashley, his daughter, she's my goddaughter.
That's amazing.
And she's part of the latest project I produced, and it's just I can't say enough good things about Glen Campbell. I wish there was some way I could repay him for everything he's done for me.
Well, I mean, I understand completely. There's always somebody in your life, and you've told me. I mean, you've got a whole list of them. A lot of people that have really.
A lot.
You've taken the best part, I think, out of all those people, just in what you do now.
Oh, I appreciate that.
Let's fast forward a little bit more and talk about some of your clients, some of the people that you produce for, or some names that people would know?
Well, I mean, I've had if you ran off a list of people I've produced, I have to admit, it'd be pretty impressive.
Okay, the first 20.
Well, but and there's a little bit of a, I mean, I don't want to. I mean, I haven't done a full album on James Taylor.
Yeah.
But I have produced James Taylor right here in this very room.
Cool.
Doing "How's the World Treating You" with Alison Krauss, and it won a Grammy for Best Vocal Duo in 2003. So yes, I've produced James Taylor, I've produced Alison Krauss, I've produced Vince Gill and Emmylou Harris and Dolly Parton and Linda Ronstadt but it's usually been in these type of albums where a multi-artist thing where it's like one song here or a couple of songs here. It's not that I've done long playing albums on all of these artists, so I don't want to misrepresent the list. It's a long list and very the list is nice.
All of these people that you're telling me about here are incredible artists, and they probably owe you a little bit too. Yeah. Just like I've heard stories about how particular you are.
I'm very particular
in this area.
This area, a lot of people call it the torture chamber.
Exactly. I was going to say that, but I was going to let you do it first.
But that's I think that's a little overblown, but it might not be. I don't demand perfection at all.
No,
I mean, I just strive for it. I try to get it the best it can be. And I think there's some really good things that come out of that. Mm-hmm. When you go to do a project or, you call a Vince Gill or a Dolly Parton mm-hmm. or, a Brad Paisley or somebody like that,
right.
They're good friends first.
Right.
But they know that I'm not going to put my name on something that's not done right.
That's good.
I'm not going to embarrass them with something. They usually are pretty quick to agree. If it's something that's important to me, they know that I'm going to do everything I can to make them just as proud of it as I am.
Exactly.
So that's something that is earned over the years and something I treasure. Basically everybody you've ever seen me work with are my friends. Sometimes they were new friends.
Right.
Like I didn't know James before worked with him on the Louvin Brothers CD.
Right.
But he was such a gracious guy and it was wonderful. I mean, I didn't know him, and I remember meeting with Tim Dubois over at Universal, and he asked me while I was working on the Louvin Brothers project. He said, "Is there anybody in particular that you'd really like to work with that you don't know, that maybe I could help you with or something?" I said, "Man, I'd love to get James Taylor on here because I've got an idea. I'd love to have him on here, but I don't know him, and I don't know how to get a hold of him." And he said, "Well, I don't know him either, but I know his manager really well. Let's call him." And so at the time, Gary Borman was managing James, and Tim Dubois put the call into Gary. Gary called James, and James was totally excited about doing it as long as he could do one thing.
Work with you.
No.
Oh.
He didn't know me at the time. But he wanted to sing with Alison Krauss.
Really?
Yeah. And I said, you know what? I can make that happen.
Incredible.
Alison and I had been friends for a long time, and she'd helped me several times on different things, singing harmony on something for me, somebody I was producing, whatever.
She does that pretty well.
Alison Krauss is an amazing artist too, and I admire so much for sticking to her guns through the years and doing what she's wanted to do, and not letting people, make her veer
manipulate
from that
her
path.
or put her where they want her.
She's turned down every major label in this town. I know. I mean, one deal was offered through me at one time, where I would produce, I would have let her do whatever she wanted. I would let nobody bother her at all. It would have been fine, but she was loyal to Rounder. And I always admired her for that. And she was afraid that, I think she was afraid. I don't want to speak for Alison, but I think she was afraid. And I know she made a couple of comments at the time. She was afraid they would push her to be, you got to do more radio. You got to use heavier drums, and you got to do this, and you got to do that. Things that labels tend to do sometimes. Mm-hmm. They'll sign a great artist, and then they'll try to bring them down to a level.
Want them, put them in a box.
It's just weird.
You can't do that.
And Alison never allowed that, and I just absolutely admire her for that. And I tell so many young artists, look at her. Look at her. Learn from that. You want to be a success, but you don't want to just be a success tomorrow night.
That's right.
You
got to
wanna
have
be
longevity.
You want to be success later
right.
on. You
right
know?
across the board.
And if you're not careful, you can be successful on something that can make you very unsuccessful
Yes,
later.
You can.
Are y'all listening?
It's making the right. It's the man talking. You got to make the right decision at the right time.
Yeah, you know.
Sometimes we're not even in charge of that,
No.
which is the cool thing, and
Yeah.
really what has happened with what we do.
Yeah.
Sometimes things just happen.
Sometimes things just happen.
You called me one day, and I'll never forget this. This is my Carl Jackson story. My one and only, well, the only one I have right now. Sure, after tonight there'll be some more. Driving home, talking to Tony on the Bluetooth on the car.
Yeah.
We're discussing plans and things we're going to do. Number flashes up on the car. It's a 615 number, and I'm like, Tony, I'm getting a call. It's a West Tennessee number. I'll call you back. So I hit the button, said hello. This guy says, Rick. And I'm thinking, it's my dad. I got to be careful. He says, Carl Jackson. And I went, holy crap. And I almost ran into my garage door.
Oh my goodness. Man.
You didn't know that.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
You know?
but I was like, I can't wait to finish talking to him and call Tony back and tell him Carl called me. I'm like, Carl Jackson's got my phone number.
That's
But let's go forward a little bit more and talk about some of your future projects, maybe that you got in the hopper, if you can.
I can talk a little bit about. There's one in the hopper that I really can't talk about.
That's fine.
I just can't. I wish I could. I'm excited to talk about it.
That's good.
But I'm just going to have to wait a little longer before
That's
I can
fine.
reveal it.
But you can just let us know.
I will. I'll let you
We'll-
know. But
we'll-
now
we'll
there's
talk to you about
there's one that's been in the hopper for quite a while that there have been a few distractions that have happened
Right.
that kind of made me veer away from it. But I want to. There's a new Bradley Walker record that's
Oh, really?
basically about 60 to 75% complete, and it's been that way for quite a few years.
Yeah.
We started it, and then Bradley was on Rounder, and they decided that the record was too country.
Right.
You know, they wanted a more hardcore bluegrass record, and what we did, you know, we cut, 12 or 13 great songs, and we
Oh,
let
man.
the songs dictate. I mean, right at this point, they're basic tracks with incredible vocals by Bradley Walker. You
Yeah.
know, he's just a great singer, and but if the song calls for a steel,
That's what you put on?
we want to put a steel on it. You know, it's not
Yeah.
it's not a big deal. We didn't, but anyway, they decided they didn't want the record, and so Bradley just paid for it himself and took the record from them.
Wow.
And we're going to finish it up at some point and
Cool.
hopefully get somebody to distribute it for us or put it out because Bradley Walker's an incredible talent.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt.
Great singer, and it's. Man, they're just wonderful songs.
Exactly.
To hear a guy like that deliver them, that's what I love. I mean, I love to hear a wonderful, wonderful song. You know.
Exactly.
I have to listen back to the record, but I don't think a truck is mentioned one time
Awesome.
in the whole record.
Well, that's odd, isn't it?
It's odd. It's odd.
All right, now let's get to Orthophonic Joy,
Okay.
the amazing record that for a long time I hadn't listened to folk style or deep into bluegrass like I used to be. And you guys brought me out. I mean, Tony and I, we cover NASCAR, we cover a lot of things. We were driving to Charlotte, and we listened to it all the way there and all the way back.
All right. That's
And
good.
that was pretty good. Being in radio, I have a short attention span sometimes. I'll hear it and I'll think, yeah, okay, I've heard that now. Go to something else.
Yeah.
And incredible.
Thank you.
I just kept my face in the CD cover trying to figure, oh my gosh, that was who I thought it was. And
That's great.
it just means a lot to us to have something really good come from Bristol.
Well,
We're very proud of that. And I know the basic story, but how do you compile so many Grammy Award-winning artists from so many different, they're all sort of in the same genre, but not.
Well, there's a little bit of a different story on every one of them. There's a
Exactly.
whole lot of divine intervention that happened, but part of it also goes back to that very first question.
Mm-hmm.
You asked me of how long you've been doing this. And,
That's right.
you know, I mean, when you start doing this at 8 years old, and you get all these breaks to work with, you know, the top of the game in bluegrass and the top of the game in pop country, you know, with Glen, and just get to sing over the years with Emmy Lou and Dolly, you know, kind of be a.
Can I hang out when Emmy Lou's in here?
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, she's wonderful. Man, I there was a time when that was just a dream of mine to get to sing with her.
I understand.
She came to a show when I was with Glen.
Yeah.
And in Las Vegas, and I was just absolutely thrilled that she was there, and I got to meet her, you know. And then later on, Ricky Skaggs helped me get her to sing on my first vocal album on Sugar Hill years ago.
Wow.
I mean, I wanted her on there so bad, you know, and it was really neat because when I got word to her that I wanted her, then she was so gracious. She was calling me back and wanting me to come over and just sing some together.
Well, I was really shocked about Doyle Lawson, the way they did that song on the album.
Absolutely.
Complete a cappella.
Yeah.
I mean, there was no hiding anything on that record.
And it's crushed.
It's amazing.
Yeah. It's
the Church Sisters song.
Thank you.
I mean,
well, I mean, you know, I really.
We could go on and on.
I like going. I like saying a little something about every one of them. I don't know that I can bring up the whole list without looking at something. But I mean, Doyle. I mean, he was Doyle and his group. You know, I wanted to kind of pay tribute to that shape note style of singing.
Exactly.
And that wonderful song. You know, I'm redeemed. The Alcoa Quartet did it originally in 1927, and I'm thinking, well, Doyle's the guy.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, Doyle's my buddy. You know, I mean, that
out, man. I mean,
that one's fairly easy, you know, because Doyle is, we go back so many years. Doyle has recorded, I think, 12, 13, 14 of my songs over the years, you know. He's done River of Tears, Little Mountain Church House, and The Best Is Yet to Come, and oh gosh, on and on and on. He's done so many of my songs. He's always been so supportive of me. And when I called him, of course, he was immediately on board, and I told him what I wanted him to do, and he nailed it. It's beautiful.
I mean,
and you talked about the Church Sisters. I mean, I met Savannah and Sarah when they were 13 years old. I met them here in Nashville at a bluegrass event, and people ask me to listen to different artists and different songs and stuff sometimes. Sure. I always do my best to listen to things for people because I remember when I needed people to listen.
Yeah, it means a lot.
And it means a lot, and I try to do it, but you don't normally expect that much.
Not really. Not really.
So, but I said I would, and
they're out there. They're diamonds in the rough.
Yeah, you know, I went over, and there was these two little girls standing there, and I said, well, will you sing something for me? And I remember they sang Fishers of Men. Mm-hmm. And I won't tell you what, it was unbelievable. Mm-hmm. I mean, they were 13 years old, and I've said many times they sounded like they were 35.
Yeah.
I mean, it was scary good. And then I thought I'd throw them, you know. I said, well, okay, I'll see how good they are, you know. I'll throw in a third part. They never wavered. It was like singing with laser beams, you know. I mean, they were just amazing. And if it's possible to get better, they're even better now. Amazing talents. By the way, I think they just signed with Big Machine Records here in town.
Awesome.
So I hope that the world gets to discover them because
I do too.
They deserve it.
They are very good.
So talented, and they are such precious girls.
Well, there's an old buddy of mine in Johnson City, Tennessee. You probably know him, Corbin Hasley. You know, I don't know if you know that fellow or not, but
I know that old boy.
Old Corbin. Now let me tell
old Corbin. Isn't it something to call Corbin Old Corbin?
Man,
but you almost feel like that.
Dude, he's got an old soul. I told him that the second time I talked to him on the phone. I said, well, I hate to say I call him old man every time I call him.
It was fairly apparent just from the video he sent in. You know, we had that contest.
Exactly.
Man, I mean, we had some great talent sent in. You know, there was some wonderful talent. But when Corbin's video came in,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it just jumped off the screen.
Yeah.
I mean, there was something special about this. You know, it was
there
like,
is.
holy cow, what is going on here? And I couldn't quit listening to it, man.
Man.
When I'd listen to it, I couldn't be still. You know, it was
That's
just,
it.
man, this is. And then, you know, he comes here, and we record Darling Choral once again, right here, live. And we had a film crew there that day too for a documentary we were doing, and they started throwing questions at Corbin.
Yeah.
And here he is, 20 years old, and man, it was like he had lived in 1927.
See that?
He knew the answer to everything. I mean, they couldn't quit interviewing him. He was wonderful.
He chewed his he cut his teeth on all of this.
And I want to tell you what,
And,
absolutely. And Corbin is a pro.
He is.
He really is great talent, you know. And I mean, it's the real deal. It's traditional.
Yeah, there's no
it's traditional mountain music.
Yeah, there's no covering over Corbin.
But he's a wonderful musician, a wonderful singer. It's as real as it gets, though.
Corbin
And he's got a thing about him, man, that's so cool. We played the Ryman the other night with Marty Stewart on his late night jam, and Corbin was specifically one of the people that Marty asked me to bring.
Really?
Absolutely. He asked me to bring the Church Sisters and Corbin and bring Ashley and Shannon Campbell.
Amazing.
You know, and for his late night jam, and I said, sure, I can do it, because he wanted to do an Orthophonic Joy tribute. You know,
exactly.
And so I brought Corbin in there, and I noticed during rehearsal, sound check and rehearsal, that is the first time I'd ever seen it a little bit. But Corbin was a bit nervous.
Yeah.
It's the first time he'd been on stage at the Ryman, and he had a little nerve action going on. And he also told me he'd been fighting a little carpal tunnel, I believe, in one of his hands or something, just a little bit. And he was still playing great.
Yeah.
It sounded great now, but not quite up to Corbin's standards. And even upstairs, then before the show, you know, we run over at one time upstairs in a dressing room, and again, it just wasn't that perfection. It was going, and I just attributed it to well, he's just, you know, he's having some problems here. He's not feeling real good. Well, we got out there on stage, and when it come Corbin's turn, well, he just, you know, to use a NASCAR expression, I guess, he just threw it up in another gear.
That's it.
Because, man, he hit the stage, and buddy, he came back to life. I mean, and they went wild.
Wow.
They loved him. I mean, he just, this comes out of him. He's just the real deal. I said, you know, Babe Ruth hit.
You've told me that.
You know, Babe hit, in 1927, Babe Ruth hit 60 home runs.
Right,
He was a pretty big deal in America. Well, I'm going to tell you what, if Corbin Hazlett had been born, if he had been around in 1927, he'd have been bigger than Babe.
Man,
I'm telling you, he would.
That's saying something.
He would have been huge.
Yeah.
He would have been a huge star.
I'm a big Yankees fan, so
man.
you're hitting the nail right on the head.
I'm a big Yankees
my car tag is actually in reference to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really?
You don't understand, man. I'm just right
That's
there
great.
with
What's
you.
the car tag? That's great.
That's the Ruth 714.
Man, that's awesome.
Guy pulled me over one day and he's like, "That's not a Bible verse." I said, "All respect to the Holy Bible.
Absolutely.
That's not about that."
No, the Babe hit 714.
And I had to go into that story and let him know.
The Babe hit 714. Man.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Clean.
Oh man, I've got one of the Babe Ruth clocks.
Clean.
Yeah.
No asterisk up there.
No asterisk. No, he hit him in about 8,000 at bats.
Man, he did.
Rather than 14,000 for 40 more home runs. You know, people, no asterisk, you know.
No.
Had to have one on Maris, but not the other way, you know.
That's it. I'll tell you what, you've been to Yankee Stadium?
I have.
Which one?
Actually, both.
Really?
I've been to both, yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, I was at Old Yankee Stadium about 1973 or so, right, but pretty much, when did they refurbish? Was it 75 or so or anything?
I think so.
It wasn't long after I joined Glen. We were in New York, and we went in and took a Yankees game. Mercer was playing,
buddy.
of course.
Oh, yeah.
But, of course, Mantle had retired in 68, and, you know.
Well, we went to 2009. We were there. They were playing the Tigers. No, it was in October, right before the playoffs.
Did you go out to Monument Park and everything?
No.
Oh, I have.
They hadn't moved everything over to where it was at the new stadium.
Oh, I got you.
Yeah, I was not that fortunate.
Well, I was at
me.
the old one,
Right.
the new one. I haven't been to the new one.
Yeah.
The real big one that you could set the old one inside.
Oh my
I haven't
gosh.
been there.
It's amazing.
I bet it is. Now,
We had field level seats on the first base side.
Yeah.
And my wife and I had discussed this here was the deal. I was going to be at the final game at Yankee Stadium. I can't even remember what happened. But the night that I sit in front of the television in my recliner and I cried, my wife's like, God. I said, yeah, it runs deep. You just don't
totally
understand.
I totally understand what you're
Oh,
talking
yeah.
about.
And I sat down in that new stadium. The electricity, you could slice it with a knife.
I'm telling you, man.
I'm watching Robinson Cano, Derek Jeter, Alex Rodriguez. All these players out there are warming up. And my dream had come true at that point. Since I was 10 years old, I was a Yankees fan.
Yeah, one of the few, you know, I mean, I've had so many blessings in life.
Yeah.
But one of the few things that one of the few, you know, if regret's not really the right word because I couldn't really control it, but I never got to shake the hand of Mickey Mantle.
Oh man, I'm telling you.
I met Whitey Ford and met, you know,
Yeah,
a lot
Whitey
of the other Yankees. In fact, Mickey was at our show one night. And we used to do the Amana golf tournament every year.
Right.
And Mickey was there playing in the tournament, as was myself and Glenn and Whitey Ford and a bunch of other people. And we always played the music show they would have before the golf tournament every year. And Mickey was in the audience. And man, I rushed off stage immediately, hoping I'd get to meet him, you know. And I walked out there and I ran into Whitey. And I said, Whitey, I'm so glad to meet you, man. I said, but is Mickey around? He said, man, he went to the room immediately after the show, but he absolutely loved the show and loved what you did. And I'm like, oh man, I just wanted to meet him. And I
can't imagine being in the same vicinity.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, I would have a problem.
Oh, Red Stiegel, a good friend of mine.
My wife would be saying, you need to go sit down and control yourself.
He signed a book for me, so I've got several things signed by Mickey. That one of them in particular, Red Stiegel, had him signed to me. And
yeah, that's amazing.
But I never got to meet the guy. And the day he died, I mean, I cried. I'm not ashamed to say like a baby.
Oh, people don't understand.
It is hard to understand, but it was like I lost a family member. Man.
It is. Because this guy was such a part of your life.
He was. I mean, I grew up, man, in 1961. You know, I was 8 years old or so, and Maris and Mantle were
battling it out. That was awesome.
And Mickey would have done it too, you know. If he
exactly. No doubt about it.
He would have.
No doubt.
You know, a lot of people know that.
We're really having a ball here with you, man. I see a lot of buttons and stuff.
Don't push anything.
That's what I'm saying. I don't want to mess up somebody's whole career. I could probably do that in about 3 minutes. But we're going to be hanging around with you Sunday night at the Station Inn.
Absolutely.
And going to be talking to old Larry Cordell.
Good.
A bunch of other people there. We're going to have us a good old time.
Absolutely.
But we appreciate you so much.
Oh, man.
Being with us, and
I'm always quick to talk about this project or,
exactly,
or whatever. I appreciate
everybody needs to go out and buy Orthophonic Joy.
I recommend it highly.
I would too. I mean,
and it goes to benefit the Birthplace of Country Music
exactly.
too. And it's just
what better thing to do.
I'm really proud of it.
You should be.
It was an Orthophonic Joy.
It was a great project, and it's gonna sell for a while.
Well, I hope so.
I'll talk to you when it turns gold. And I'll talk to you when we go platinum.
Okay, fair enough.
Is that cool?
That's fair enough with me.
All right.
Good deal. Thank you, Rick.
Good to meet you, man.
You too, bud.
All right, for Rick Dollar and Tony Dean and Carl Jackson.
You might have proud to be here.
That's right. NetRadioDogs.com. We're on the move. See ya.